Okay, hi, I'm back and I am ready to talk about step 12. And step 12 is having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. Now, these steps have originated from Alcoholics Anonymous, but these videos that I'm doing are not affiliated with any specific program, but they do originate from Alcoholics Anonymous. And because of that, a lot of the literature that I use is from AA, and especially with step 12 tonight, I'm going to be referring to some of the literature from AA and from Al-Anon too. So, as I've said, that these steps are applicable for anything, like in the intro video, anything that you have going on, you can use these steps for. But by now, if you've followed me through these first 11 steps, you've seen some big changes, because you cannot do these steps and not have these changes happen in your life. And it's always helpful to work with somebody else, because sometimes we can't see the changes in ourselves, but we can see them in other people. And that's why the 12-step programs offer the opportunity to work with a sponsor. And if you have somebody who is a therapist or a religious person in your life that you can talk to, somebody else that has an objective point of view, that understands the idea of a concept of a power greater than yourself, and perhaps even has some experience with the 12 steps, that would be really helpful. So in the first line of the 12 and 12, which is the 12 steps and 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous, in this book there is a wonderful, wonderful sentence that it starts with, and it says, "The joy of living is the theme of AA's 12th step, and action is its key word." Now, this is assuming that you've worked the first 11 steps to the best of your ability, and you can see that the joy of living is a theme. It is talking about being happy, joyous, and free. But there is work to be done, and that's where the action comes in. And so the action is in doing the work so that I can have this spiritual awakening and to pass a message. Now, I can't pass a message that I don't have. So if I haven't been doing this work, I don't have a very clear message. And a lot of times, unfortunately, especially in the 12-step programs, that can do more harm than good sometimes. They call it two-stepping. You know, I do the first step, I'm powerless and my life's unmanageable. And then they hop right over to the 12-step and they want to go out and tell everybody, hey, there's this program, it works, and I'm not drinking or I'm not doing whatever it was that I was doing. But in between, there's this big, huge body of work that we have to clean up the past. We have to make amends for the things that we've done, the people that we've harmed, and to see the character defects and ask, with the help of a power greater than myself, to remove those defects of characters. Because as I've said in step 6 and 7, this is spiritual surgery. This is not something that I can do on my own. I have to have the help of a higher power. And, you know, if it's an alcoholic and alcoholism that you're dealing with, you know, it says in the ABCs on page 60, I think, or 59, 60, in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it says that no human power could relieve me of my alcoholism. And I say sometimes, you know, no human power can relieve me of a lot of the things that are going on in my life, like the fear and the resentment and the anger and the worrying, anxiety. And then it says that God could and would if he were sought. And so again, God, he, whatever you want to call it, doesn't make a bit of difference. That higher power could and would if it was sought. And so that word sought becomes the most important word to me, almost one of the most important words in that book. God doesn't make hard terms. All I have to do is start looking and ask for help. Now, if you're listening to these videos and you've gotten to this point, the chances are good that you have tried to do this on your own and it didn't work. And that's why we know that it's only going to be with the help of a higher power that this is going to be effective. And so some of the things that I'd like to talk about in this book, and it's really just easier to just read a little bit of it because it's written so well to begin with. Some of the things about step 12, joy of living is the theme of the 12th step, and action is its keyword, and giving that asks no reward. So when I do this, I'm not doing this you know, to get anything back. I'm doing this because I know how powerful it was for me, and if it can help anybody else, that's great. But by me doing this, it helps me to also keep it. It reminds me of why I do this work, especially here in the 12th step. People ask me a lot of the times, you know, do you get paid for this? No, I don't get paid for this, because this is something that I do so that I can stay on an even keel and I can remember what it is that I need to do so I don't go back to that old way of thinking, those old ideas. You know, I'm currently in San Francisco, and I lived out here 40 years ago, and this is before I started this path of the 12 steps, and I'm not the same person that I was 40 years ago. I mean, granted, that's obvious for anybody, but I'm talking about internally. I have completely been reborn in the sense that these 12 steps have changed my life. And everything that I needed to go through to get to this place, I'm grateful for, because it takes what it takes sometimes. And for me, I really did have to hit, a bottom, spiritually speaking, before I could ask for help. And it says, what is a spiritual awakening? A new state of consciousness and being is received as a free gift. And this is what the 12 steps offer. And the gift that you receive lies in the practice of these 12 steps. And this is the magnificent reality of these 12 steps. There's no better way to say it. The magnificent reality. This is what happens. The reward of helping other people. Of course, in AA, it talks about helping other alcoholics. In Al-Anon, it talks about helping other families, people that have been dealing with alcoholism, to show them that there is another way, and that there is help, and there is a solution. And there's all kinds of 12-step work that we can do. It's talking with somebody else, listening, working the steps with somebody else. Just and just listening sometimes is really very helpful. Going to meetings, if you go to meetings at church or whoever it is that you talk about, where you find your relationship with a higher power, something that you can give back, because we've gotten so much, especially at this point. And then it talks about practicing these principles in all of our affairs. And, the monotony, pain, and calamity turn to good use by practice of the steps. The difficulties of practice. This is not easy work, you guys, and I've been doing this for a long time. It doesn't necessarily get easier, but it gets clearer. It gets simpler. I know what to do, because growing spiritually is the answer to our problems, placing spiritual growth first and putting our lives on a give and take basis. Dependence on God is necessary to recovery. And, these principles that I am practicing in all of my affairs, hopefully. So what I see here, the results that I see here are so effective. Now listen, this stuff doesn't just go away, especially with the character defects. That's why I talk about using those cards in step 6 and 7, because a lot of the times these defects just, they go to the back of the line, and they sometimes just change clothes, and they just wait, and they show up again. So they're going to keep showing up, but I have helped to spot them. I've talked about that. I believe I talked about that, like the top 10 most wanted list in the post office, where I'm standing in line and I'm looking at that piece of paper that has the pictures of these top 10 most wanted criminals. And they're saying, if you see these people out in public, they're dangerous, so call and ask for help. And, I recognize them because I've been sitting here, waiting in line, looking at their picture. And so when I see them out in public, and it's the same thing with my character defects, when I'm carrying these cards around one at a time, hopefully, I become familiar with them. And so then I see myself practicing them out there in public, out there in the world. I spot them a lot faster. And I can, spot, admit, correct, like step 10 talks about. I can spot them, and I can remember to ask for help. I can't do this alone. They're dangerous. Don't go in there alone. I have to ask for help. And so I ask my higher power to please remove them. And sometimes I don't get them removed, because sometimes I think they're still helpful, to God to help teach me something, or to help teach somebody else. Like I often say, I'm often an example of, what not to do. So that could be very useful to God. But I would like to tell you that one of the things that I have written down here, because this has been so important to me, in step 12, and I have written down underneath it, it's one of the reasons why I do what I do. And this is what it says in here. I'm going to read it from the AA book. And so it says, practically every AA member, and that's anybody that's worked these steps, really has done this as a life-changing process, declares that no satisfaction has been deeper and no joy greater than in a 12th step job well done. To watch the eyes of men and women open with wonder as they move from darkness into light, to see their lives quickly fill with new purpose and meaning, to see whole families reassembled, to see the alcoholic outcast, or any of us, you guys, that were outcast from what we thought was, normal society, because we felt so apart from instead of a part of. So to see people received back into the community in full citizenship, and this is really why I say I do this, above all, to watch these people awaken to the presence of a loving God in their lives. These things are the substance of what we receive as we carry AA's message and this 12-step message to the next person that's sick and suffering. And this reason alone is really why I do this, because I know that I can't do this without the help of a higher power. And I ask people a lot of times, they'll say, oh, I've been going to a therapist for years, and I've been going to talk to somebody about what's going on and my problems or whatever. And I'll ask them, I say, how many times has that therapist ever said the word God or higher power? And it's typically never. And you guys, you can't do this work without the help of a higher power. First of all, you can't do it by yourself. A sick mind can't heal a sick mind. And no other, human power can do this for me. I really do need this divine intervention. And whether I believe in a God or not, God believes in me. There is some kind of creator, some kind of higher power, some kind of energy that is greater than myself, and I've heard this said before, and I say it myself, it's like, go ahead and try to stop a wave and see how far you get. There's something out there that runs this universe, and there's a reason that I'm here. I'm not just a bunch of random body parts slammed together, and just show up. I'm here with a purpose, and my job here is to find that purpose. And because of step 12 and these 12 steps, I have had a spiritual awakening because I've worked these steps, and I've come into a belief that there is a power greater than myself that can restore me to sanity, and now I have evidence of it. So I'm convicted of the fact that there is a power greater than myself, and it has brought me to this place of happy, joyous, and free on a fairly regular basis. And this joy of living is the theme of my life. And it is a lot of action, and it is a lot of work, and I do this work on a daily basis. So it's not like I just do these 12 steps and then I'm done. Good, finished. I can sign off on this. This is something that I live every day. And so I'm hoping that at this point that these 12 steps have brought you to this place where you feel like, the ability to practice. They say practice is a behavior for a system of belief, a foundation. It's something that I have here that I can use to practice these principles, which are these fundamental truths that I have gleaned from working these steps. And now I can take them out and I can use them in the world. But that doesn't mean that I stop working and reviewing these steps, and I have this daily conscious contact with some kind of a power that's greater than me that I can ask to help guide my life on a daily basis. And I'm telling you guys, I've been doing this for a really long time, and it just keeps getting better. I'm happier now than I've ever been, and I couldn't tell you why. It's not because of anything on the outside. It's not because of the house or the job or the money or the guy or the car, nothing. There's nothing to do with any of that stuff. It's about this knowingness inside that I'm not alone, that I don't have to figure this out by myself, that I always have help, and it's real and present, and if I ask for it, it's available to me. That doesn't mean that I'm going to get it on demand, because they say in here that the difference between a demand and a request is plain to anybody. And so I can ask for help, but then I have to wait. And I'm sure I've said this before too, is that, in prayer and meditation in step 11, that, prayer without meditation is like ringing God's doorbell and then running away. So if I'm going to ask for help from this divine energy, if I'm going to ask for help from this higher power, then I get to just ask for help and let it go, and then go back to doing what I was doing, and then wait on God. And I'm not doing God's will my way. I'm doing God's will God's way. And I will intuitively understand how to handle problems that would have baffled me in the past. And I've done that in the 9th step promises. We talk about that. So this stuff is great. I highly recommend reading this literature, the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Whether you're an alcoholic or not, you can substitute the words like a lot of groups do to use it. It talks about the changes that are here, and I'm just going to read a little bit of the end of the 12th step here, where it talks about in the 12 and 12, which is the 12 steps and 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it says, these little studies of AA's 12 steps now comes to a close. We have been considering so many problems that it may appear that AA's consist of mainly of racking dilemmas and troubleshooting. And it's not just alcoholics. We all have, dilemmas, and we all do this troubleshooting. And to doing it by myself, it has not been very effective. To a certain extent, that's true. We have been talking about problems because we're problem people who have found a way up and out, and who wish to share our knowledge of that way with all who can use it, which means us, which means if you're not an alcoholic, this is for us. They're offering this wonderful program for us to use for whatever it is that's ailing us. For it is only by accepting and solving our problems that we can begin to get right with ourselves and with the world about us and with Him who presides over us all. Understanding is the key to right principles and attitudes, and right action is the key to good living. Therefore, the joy of good living is the theme of AA's 12th step. With each passing day of our lives, may every one of us sense more deeply the inner meaning of AA's simple prayer. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change to the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And with that, I'm going to say thank you for listening and taking this journey with me through the 12 steps. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go into the 12 traditions, which are really wonderful. They're applicable in our personal lives. They're for use with families and groups of friends and workplaces, any kind of groups that we're involved with. They're really terrific guides for us. And so I'll keep going. But thank you for being with me through this journey. And 12 step, there's so much in the 12th step. I couldn't even really begin to do it. It would take me an hour to talk about it. So I'm grateful that I hope that some of this made sense to you. And I hope that you will stick around and keep coming back and go back and, listen to these videos again and see if there's something in here that can't help you with what it is that's ailing you, because there is a solution, but it does involve the willingness to consider the help of a power greater than yourself. And I hope, if nothing else, that these videos have helped you to become willing and open-minded enough to invite that higher power into your life and to help you with your day-to-day activities, because after all, it really is about keeping your head where your feet are. When I'm present, when I'm really right here, right now, everything is okay. It's when I talk about that insanity, when I go into the past and have regrets, or when I get worried about the future, that's when I really start to get shaky. And so we've talked about this before also, that I have an unshakable foundation that is my relationship with a higher power, but I shake. I do. I get shaky, I get scared, and I get worried, but I have some help today. And that's what's so great about this. I have these tools, I have these steps, I have people that I can call, other people that are working. And if you're lucky enough to be a member of a 12-step program, then use that phone list and use those meetings and really dive in. Because as I say, the reason I called this Dive Deep with the 12 steps is that if you're going to do this work, let's go deep. Let's not just scratch the surface, because there is so much here. And this is a lifelong journey. This is not something that ends now, because God will reveal more to you as you go along. There's always more work to do. And because of that, there is always more joy to be found. This is an incredible opportunity that I've had to work these 12 steps and to have these videos to bring this to you, and I hope that it's helped somebody. So thank you for listening. You've been a great audience. I've gotten some wonderful feedback. I really do appreciate it, and thank you for the the compliments, because this is really just a really amateur, propping my phone up and just talking. I don't have the microphone. I don't have the ring light, as much as people have told me that I should do that. I just do this whenever I can, so I'm really grateful. Thanks for listening, and I hope I'll see you when you come back to listen to Tradition 1. Okay.